Okay, good morning everyone. In the last session, we started with Carnot cycle, then we talked about Carnot theorem and corollary of Carnot theorem. In today's session, we are going to start with thermodynamic temperature scale. So, what exactly means by thermodynamic temperature scale, and what is the importance of studying that thermodynamics temperature scale? But before beginning with that thermodynamic temperature scale, this scale is based on Carnot theorem. So let's brush up the things that we saw in the last session. In the last session, we started with Carnot cycle. The Carnot cycle that consists of two reversible isotherms and two reversible adiabats. That is purely a theoretical or hypothetical cycle, and it has got certain limitations. Those limitations also we discussed in the last session, and because of those limitations we don't have any real life application till date, right? So it is basically a theoretical cycle. After that we talked about Carnot theorem. So according to Carnot theorem, let me get back to that slide. So according to Carnot theorem, if there is a source at temperature T1 and there is a sink at temperature T2 or T higher and T lower, and if across those source and sink, if there are certain number of heat engines working, means those all engines are accepting heat from source, that is high temperature reservoir, producing some work output and then rejecting some part of that accepted heat to a low temperature reservoir, that is sink. Now across all those heat engines, if there is one reversible engine, okay, there is source, there is a sink, and across that source and sink, if there are certain number of heat engines working, and out of those heat engines, suppose there is one reversible heat engine, then according to Carnot theorem, that reversible heat engine is going to have efficiency more than all other engines. Okay, so that is the Carnot theorem. And after that, we talked about corollary also. We proved this theorem that efficiency of reversible heat engine is always greater than normal engine. This one we proved. Then there was a corollary also, and corollary states that if between that source and sink, if there are certain number of reversible engines, now there are all reversible heat engines, then efficiency of all those heat engines is going to be same. If all those reversible heat engines are operating between same source and same sink, then their efficiency is going to be same. So that is corollary of Carnot theorem. And according to this corollary, we can say that if there are certain engines operating between certain sink and source and sink, then irrespective of the working fluid, means whatever fluid that engine is using as a working fluid, its efficiency will be dependent of only source temperature and sink temperature, and it will be independent of that working fluid. Means if there is one engine that is working on air, if there is another engine that is working on water, or there is certain engine that is using some other working fluid, but if all those engines are working between same source and same sink, then their efficiency is going to same. So that efficiency is independent of the working fluid. So that is the outcome that we get from the corollary of Carnot theorem. Now this corollary we are going to use to define or to discuss this thermodynamic temperature scale. Now in this thermodynamic temperature scale, let me get that marker again. Yeah, it's there. Okay. So in case of thermodynamic temperature scale, we discussed that, or we proved that if there are certain engines operating between source and sink, and if all those engines are reversible engines, then their efficiency is going to be same. This is corollary, right? And according to this corollary, if this one is working on air, this one is working on water, this one is working on some other fluid, then the efficiency is independent of this working fluid, whether it is air, water, or some other fluid. That efficiency is going to remain same, and that will be dependent on T higher and T lower only. So we know the efficiency relation, right? Efficiency is equal to Q1 minus Q2 by Q1. That is heat accepted minus heat rejected by heat accepted, or heat input, heat lost by the system divided by heat input to the system. And if this efficiency is dependent of these values, we know that these values, that is Q1 is proportional to this temperature of source and Q2 is proportional to temperature of the sink, then efficiency is a function of temperature only. That we can say, right? Because just we proved that efficiency is independent of the working fluid, and it is going to be dependent on the temperature of source and sink. So efficiency is a function of temperature, and here we know that why we are saying that efficiency is proportional a function of temperature, because the heat accepted Q1 and Q2 are proportional to that TH and TL, or Q1, T1 and T2. So this Q1 is function of temperature. This Q2 is also function of temperature, and that we can say Q1 by Q2 is equal to T1 by T2, or basically Q1 is proportional to T1 and Q2 is proportional to T2. So if I take ratio of those Q1 and Q2, I will get this relation. Q1 by Q2 is equal to T1 by T2. Okay. Now, based on this relation, we are going to define the thermodynamic temperature scale. Now, in case of heat engines, this is the temperature of sink. This is the temperature of source. To increase the efficiency, either I need to increase the temperature of source or I need to decrease the temperature of sink. And increasing the temperature of source has got certain limitations, right? Because the materials used for in that engine has to be ability to withstand those higher temperatures. So we cannot increase this temperature beyond certain limit. So can we reduce this one to a 0 degree Celsius? If I reduce this to 0 degree Celsius, then efficiency is going to be 100%, right? Because if temperature is 0 degree Celsius, we know that the heat transfer is a function of temperature. So if TL is 0, this QL will become 0, and this QL becomes 0, then this relation of efficiency Q1 minus Q2 by Q1. So that will become Q1 by Q2, that is 1, and that is nothing but the 100%, right? But according to third law of thermodynamics, here comes the one of the form of third law of thermodynamics. For third law of thermodynamics, there are two references. First one is this absolute zero temperature, and second one is related to entropy. We'll talk about that one while studying entropy, but here we are going to discuss the absolute zero temperature. So according to third law of thermodynamics, the temperature of system cannot be reduced to zero in finite number of processes. Means if you want to reduce temperature of certain body to 0 degrees, thermodynamic 0, not 0 degrees Celsius, thermodynamic 0 means minus 273 Kelvin. Okay, and if you want to reduce that temperature or reduce temperature to that level, thermodynamics third law says that is impossible. Okay, we'll discuss this one in the next slide in detail, why that is not possible and all. But at the moment, just remember that the third law of thermodynamics is related to absolute zero, and it says that the temperature of system cannot be reduced to zero or absolute zero. Okay, so now we got this relation Q1 by Q2 is equal to T1 by T2. Okay, after that, suppose I have one source whose temperature is known and its heat interaction is also known. So that is going to be my reference temperature, reference heat interaction. And there is another source whose temperature is unknown. That temperature is to be known, but I know the exact amount of heat interaction by that source. Then I can use this relation and find the temperature of that another source, because I have the values of T reference, that is temperature of reference source, and Q reference, that is heat interaction by that reference source. And I also know the heat interaction by that source whose temperature is to be known. So by using this relation, I can find the temperature of that unknown source. And this one is based on this relation only. Instead of Q1 and T1, I have replaced that one with Q reference and T reference, and another Q2, T2 will be temperature and heat interaction of that another source. Now, what exactly thermodynamic temperature scale is? Just in corollary, we proved that efficiency is independent of the working fluid. Means, suppose I am using one thermocouple that is using air as a working fluid. There is another temperature measuring device that is using mercury as a working fluid. Then there is another device that is using radiations, that is based on radiations intensity, that we call pyrometer. And if I use those three devices to measure a temperature of same body, and if this air-based temperature measuring device shows temperature T1, this one shows temperature T2, this one shows temperature T3, and if all these temperatures are different, then will that be possible for me to get the exact temperature of this device? No, because if I use air-based temperature measuring device, I will get something different temperature. If I use another temperature measuring device, and if I am getting something different temperature, then I will not be sure about the exact temperature of that body, because whether this one is showing correct or this one is showing correct, I will not be sure, right? So thermodynamic temperature scale means that temperature scale has to be independent of the properties of the substance that has been used to measure the temperature. Means whether I am using air-based temperature measuring device, mercury-based, or radiation-based, I should get the same temperature value. Means irrespective of the working substance, the temperature indicated by that device has to be same. And if I am getting that one, then that scale is called as thermodynamic temperature scale. Okay. So this is based on corollary. This relation will be used for that temperature finding. And what exactly thermodynamic temperature scale is? The scale that is independent of the working fluid that has been used in the temperature measurement. So that is basically a thermodynamic temperature scale. Now, third law of thermodynamics. We said that according to third law of thermodynamics, it is impossible to reduce the temperature of body to absolute zero Kelvin or minus 273.15 degrees Celsius in finite number of steps. So you need to go for infinite number of steps, or in short, getting that 0 degree Kelvin or minus 273 degree Celsius is not possible at all. That is the third law of thermodynamics. Then why is it so? The reason is, let's consider here temperature is suppose 60 degrees Celsius. Uh, if the temperature is 60 degrees Celsius and there is a chamber that has got certain fluid or consider air, then at 60 degrees Celsius, because of heat absorbed by individual molecule, those molecules will be moving in a random direction with some random velocity. They will be colliding with each other, and ultimate result will be the temperature possessed by that whole system. Now, if I start decreasing the temperature, what will happen? As I keep reducing the temperature, the velocity or kinetic energy possessed by individual molecule will keep on reducing. As I reduce temperature, this kinetic energy will keep on reducing, and ultimate result will be a reduction in the temperature of the body, right? Because when we call temperature possessed by the body, that is the macroscopic viewpoint. But we know that somewhere, if you go for microscopic viewpoint, then the temperature possessed by that body is a result of the kinetic energy of individual molecule, right? That individual molecule will have certain kinetic energy, they will collide with each other, they will move in random direction, and overall effect is nothing but the temperature of that body. That we know, right? Macroscopic viewpoint and microscopic viewpoint. So when I reduce temperature, its kinetic energy is also going to reduce. So here you can see the reduction in temperature has caused molecules to settle down or lose their kinetic energy. The kinetic energy will be exactly zero, means all molecules will be stationary, or in short, the whole system will be in solid state, right? Now, we know that obtaining this or converting this system in such a way that individual molecule is at stationary condition, and that is possible only when that system is in solid state, and attaining that one is impossible. And because of that one, the third law of thermodynamics says that it is impossible to lower the temperature of any system to absolute zero in finite number of steps. Okay, so this is one of the form of third law of thermodynamics. There is another one that is based on entropy that we'll see in the upcoming sessions. So till now, if you have any doubt, any query, you can unmute and ask. I'll wait for a while to have your queries.
Repeat the last point.
Yes, Pratik.
Sir, last point.
इथला हे इथं काय एक्सप्लेन केलं तुला?
Zero internal energy.
तर एक्झॅक्टली जो मॅक्रोस्कोपिक आणि मायक्रोस्कोपिक व्ह्यू पॉइंट आहे, according to that one, the temperature possessed by the body is a result of kinetic energy possessed by individual molecule inside that body, right? So when you keep reducing the temperature, the kinetic energy will also reduce, and obtaining that state is impossible. And because of that one, the thermodynamics, third law of thermodynamics says that it is impossible to lower the temperature to absolute zero. Okay. Clear, or do I need to explain again?
No, sir, clear.
Okay. Okay, so till now, we are done with theoretical part based on second law of thermodynamics. So now we are going to begin with the numericals. So you are supposed to take out notebooks, calculator and pen, and we are going to solve numericals on the that pen and paper. Okay. So I am going to stop sharing from here, and I'll join with another device so that that video can be projected. So be there for a while, and let me connect that another system. I will pause. And let me remind you that you need to post the picture of notebook. So you need not to act like you are doing something. You need to actually do something. Okay. So just don't pretend that you are solving numerical. You need to solve it on your notebook, use calculators, get the solutions and post those things to me. So remember that one. Okay, so a heat engine receives heat at the rate of 1500 kilojoules per minute, receives heat at a rate of 1500 kilojoules per minute, and gives output of 8.2 kilowatt, gives output of 8.2 kilowatt, full stop. Determine first one, thermal efficiency. Determine first one, thermal efficiency, and second one, the rate of heat rejection. The rate of heat rejection. So we need to find those two things. First one is thermal efficiency of that heat engine, and second one is the rate of heat injection, heat rejection. So N has to be calculated and Q2 has to be calculated. So let's read the statement carefully and note down the given data. So there is a heat engine. So this is heat engine that is accepting heat Q1 from a reservoir at temperature T1. That Q1 is equal to 1500 kilojoules per minute. That Q1 is given. It is producing work output of 8.2 kilowatt. That is also given. And we need to find this Q2. Okay. And in that case, it is supposed to reject some heat to a sink at temperature T2. Okay, so this is going to be a sketch for this numerical. Yes, somebody has some query?
सर ते डायग्राम मध्ये क्लोज नसतं का ते T1 T2 रिझर्वायर?
Close in the sense, Pratik?
हा म्हणजे डायग्रामचं ते वरतून ओपन आहे ना.
अच्छा. आपण ड्रॉ करत नाही तसं, बट यू कॅन ड्रॉ लाईक दिस वन ऑल्सो, नो इश्यू.
सर सगळं सिंकला आणि रिझर्वायर मध्ये पण करू शकतो का इरिव्हर्सिबल मध्ये?
Yes, yes, you can do that, but usually we represent like that one, because as we consider that the source has got infinite capacity, so we keep it open. Okay, that is just representation, nothing more than that. Okay, so now we need to find Q2. Now to find that Q2, and before that N thermal. So can any one of you tell me the relation for N thermal? Actually, N
W
thermal.
upon Q1.
Okay, Pratik, can you repeat that one?
And W upon Q1.
W upon Q1. Very good. Now, how can we get the W? If I look at this engine, this Q1 is entering the system, Q2 is going out of the system, W is also going out of the system. So this W and Q2 is going out of the system, whereas Q1 is entering the system. So this Q1 must be addition of this W and Q2, because this is entering the system and those two are going out of the system. So there has to be equivalence between those two. So this must be equal to those two. So W is equal to Q1 minus Q2, right? This one we have proved already, but if somebody has missed that one, you can get it here also. W is equal to Q1 minus Q2. So this numerator can be replaced by Q1 minus Q2 and denominator will remain same as Q1. There is one alternative relation that is based on temperature, but as air temperature T1 and T2 both are unknown, so we cannot use that relation. Or else there is alternative relation for N thermal. N thermal is equal to T1 minus T2 by T1. Right? That relation is also there, but we are not going to use that one as all the things are unknown. But we can use this one because this Q1 is known, or we need to find Q2 first. What will happen here?
So W is given.
Very good. Already W is given, that is 8.2 kilowatts. So I need not to worry about this Q1 minus Q2. Okay. Actually, this relation we need to use for finding Q2, that the second unknown. But before that, we need to find this N thermal, and we have W, we have Q1 also. But before that, do I need to convert some data into some other form? Because Q1 is in kilojoules per minute, whereas W is in kilowatt. Kilojoules per minute, kilowatt is nothing but kilojoules per
Second.
second. Very good. So this is kilojoules per minute. So this has to be converted into kilojoules per second. So how can we get that kilojoules per second?
Divided by 60.
Very good. So if I divide this by 60, because let me explain it over here. Kilojoules per minute is the unit, right? And if I want to convert this minute into second, I need to multiply it by 60. So that will be divided by 60 to the whole term, and that way it will get converted into kilojoules per second. So here W is 8.2 divided by Q1 is 1500 divided by 60. Can any one of you tell me the N thermal? Put that thing in calculator and let me know the answer that you have got.
0.328.
0.328, or N thermal is equal to 32.8%. Okay, very good. I have also got the same answer. Okay, now this is the first thing that was asked to calculate. Now the second thing is Q2. We already have relation W is equal to Q1 minus Q2. W is 8.2 is equal to Q1 is again 1500 by 60 minus Q2, and from here calculate Q2 and let me know what you get in terms of kilowatt or kilojoules per second. Calculate this one and be ready with the answer. The first part of meeting will end in less than 1 minute. So I will end the session and join session with the same link. I am ending the meeting and you are
16.8.
So Q2 is 16.8 kilowatt. Is everybody has got the same answer? Pratik has got 16.8. Anybody else can confirm this answer? Yes, I want few more answers. Or only Pratik is interested in thermodynamics or studying thermodynamics. What about others? They don't find it interesting. Yes, Shrikar, Umesh, what is Q2?
16.8.
Exactly.
Yes, sir.
Okay. That was quite simple one. You need not to take that much time to get the answer. Hmm? Should I proceed to next numerical? So we were asked to find thermal efficiency, that we got 32.8%, and second one was the heat rejected to a low temperature sink, and that we got 16.8 kilowatt. Okay, so let's move to next numerical. You need to write down this statement along with me again. Okay, I think now it is properly visible. Pratik, is it visible properly or it has got blur?
Yes, sir. Blur.
It's blur, sir.
Okay, let me see what is. Okay, is it fine now, Pratik?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Note down the statement of the second numerical. During a process, a system receives, during a process, a system receives 30 kilojoules of heat. During a process, a system receives 30 kilojoules of heat from a reservoir, from a reservoir, and does does 60 kilojoules of work, and does 60 kilojoules of work, full stop. Is it possible, is it possible to reach initial state? Is it possible to reach initial state by an adiabatic process? By an adiabatic process. Okay, so the statement is there is a process which receives 30 kilojoules of heat from a reservoir. So Q input, or let me draw the process here. One to two. Okay. So during the process 1 to 2, this Q in or Q1 to 2 is 30 kilojoules. Okay. So when the process proceeds from 1 to 2, heat entering is Q12, and that has been given 30 kilojoules, and it does a work of 60 kilojoules, and W122 is 60 kilojoules. So W122 is also given, and that is 60 kilojoules. After that, they have asked whether we can take this process back to its original state. Initially, it has changed from 1 to 2. During that process, heat is entering the system, work is being produced by the system, and they have asked whether it is possible to take that system back to its original state. So let's consider that path, and condition is the process is adiabatic in nature. Okay, so if you want to take that process back to its initial state with adiabatic process, whether that is possible or not, and if possible, how that is possible, that we need to find. Okay, so before that, let me ask you one question. Actually, answer has to be known to each one of you, but still I'll ask somebody who is there. Narayan. Narayan, unmute yourself.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell me what is mean by adiabatic process?
Adiabatic.
What is adiabatic process? When we say that this is adiabatic process, you need not to flip through pages. The answer has to be known to you. Just in the last session, we have discussed this adiabatic process. We have discussed in the past also, but in the last session also we talked about this one in Carnot cycle. Carnot cycle consists of two isothermal processes and two adiabatic processes. So what is adiabatic process? What happens in case of adiabatic process? अभ्यास कर रे नारायण, असं वेड्यासारखं करू नको.
हो सर.
दुसरं कोणी सांगू शकतं का रे? What is adiabatic process? Anybody unmute and let me know.
Sir, it is a process in which there is no transfer of heat or mass between the system and surrounding.
Very good. So in case of process 221, that is when it return back to original state, this Q21 is equal to 0. That is input. Okay. And now we need to verify whether we can take this system back to original state. Okay. So let's do that. Now for 1 to 2, by first law of thermodynamics, Q1 to 2 is equal to process is changing its state from 1 to 2. So can I write delta U is equal to U2 minus U1? Is that fine, Pradeep?
Yes, sir.
Because delta U is equal to U final minus U initial, that we know. And if process is changing its state from 1 to 2, 2 is final state, 1 is initial state, so U2 minus U1. Q is equal to delta U plus W, W1 to 2. Okay. Now let's put the values. Q1 to 2 is 30. We need to find U2 minus U1. Let's keep it as it is. Plus 60. So U2 minus U1 is equal to kilojoules. What you get for U2 minus U1?
Minus 30.
Minus 30 kilojoules. Okay. So let's remember this one. We are going to use this one. Okay, that is for 1 to 2. Now let's take back the system to original state, that is 2 to 1. So now for 2 to 1, again by first law, Q is equal to delta U plus W, and that is going to be Q 2 to 1 is equal to now U1 minus U2. Got this one? Because system is changing its state from 2 to 1. So for reverse process, 1 is the final state and 2 is the initial. So U1 minus U2 and plus W 2 to 1. Now they have given Q21 as 0. So this is gone. Is equal to U1 minus U2. 0 is equal to, we have this U2 minus U1 30. Here U1 minus U2. So this 30 minus will become plus 30. Is that fine? Or do I need to explain? Pratik, is it visible or the screen has got freeze? Okay. So we were talking about process 2 to 1. That is, it is returning back to its original state. And in that case, the relation according to first law will be Q 2 to 1 is equal to U1 minus U2 plus W 2 to 1. So Q is equal to delta U plus W. Now out of these things, they have given heat interaction during the process is 0 because the process is now adiabatic one. So Q21 0 is equal to U2 minus U1 was minus 30, but here U1 minus U2 is there, so this minus 30 will become plus 30, and plus W221 will remain as it is. So now if I solve this one, I will get W221 is equal to minus 30 kilojoules. Everyone is there with me till this point? Somebody confirm this one? Now we have got W221 is minus 30. The question that was asked to us, whether it is possible to reach to its initial state by an adiabatic process. So our answer is yes, we can reach to initial state, but what we need to do? We need to input 30 kilojoules of work to the system. So if I input W 30 kilojoules, then I can take the system back to its initial state. So that is going to be answer to this question. Is that fine with everyone? If you have any query, let me know so that I'll explain it again. If you don't have any query, we'll proceed to the next numerical. So do you have any query?
No, sir.
Okay. So let's begin with the third numerical. Okay. Write down the statement. A domestic food refrigerator, maintains a temperature. A domestic food refrigerator maintains a temperature of minus 12 degrees Celsius. Maintains a temperature of minus 12 degrees Celsius. Full stop. The ambient air temperature, ambient air in the sense atmospheric temperature. Okay, so that don't get confused. Ambient air temperature is 35 degrees Celsius. If heat leaks, LEAKS, if heat leaks into the freezer, at a continuous rate of 2 kilojoules per second, full stop, determine the least power required. Determine the least means minimum, least power required to pump that heat, determine the least power required to pump that heat out of system continuously. Pump that heat out of system continuously. Okay, so read the statement carefully. So there is one refrigerator. Now we know the function of refrigerator, what it does. This is our refrigerator actually, or the space where that food is being stored. So temperature will be T2. This is our atmosphere. Temperature will be T1, and we know that this T1 will be greater than T2. Now refrigerator will continuously absorb heat from the refrigerator or that freezer and will continuously dissipate heat to the atmosphere. The heat accepted Q2 proportional to T2 and heat dissipated to the atmosphere Q1 proportional to temperature T1, and for that one we need to provide external work. So work input to the system. Okay, so this is the sketch for the refrigerator. Now let's mention the given data by reading the statement carefully. A domestic food refrigerator maintain a temperature of minus 12 degrees Celsius. So this T2 is minus 12 degrees Celsius. Pratik, can you convert this into Kelvin and tell me the value?
Yes, sir.
Each one of you should be ready with
261 Kelvin.
What is Pratik that?
261 Kelvin.
261 Kelvin. Very good. Next, the ambient air temperature is 35 degrees Celsius. So this T1 is 35 degrees Celsius. And that is in terms of Kelvin. Pratik?
308 Kelvin.
308 Kelvin. Those who don't know what Pratik is doing, for them, the temperature in degree Celsius plus 273 will get temperature in degree Kelvin. So he is just adding this 273. Okay. So now, what is next? If the heat leaks into freezer, means there is continuously heat entering this freezer, and that rate is 2 kilojoules per second. So there is continuously heat entering at a rate of 2 kilojoules per second into the freezer, and so if that much heat entering the system, that much heat has to be taken out by the system, so that Q2 is nothing but this 2 kilojoules per second. Is that fine with everyone? They have little bit played with the words, right? They don't have given the data directly, but they have given in some complicated form. So what they have said, if heat leaks into the freezer at a continuous rate of 2 kilojoules per second, and if that much heat is entering in the freezer at continuous rate, if I want to maintain that temperature, I need to take same heat out of that freezer. So this Q2 will become 2 kilojoules per second, and then what they have asked, determine the least power required to pump that heat out of the system continuously. So we need to find least power required, that is work input to the system. So we need to find this W when this Q2 is 2 kilojoules per second. So can any one of you tell me what we need to do, how we can get this W? This Q1 is unknown, that Q1 is not known to us. Okay, Q1 they don't have given, and we need to find a W. So what can we do?
Q2 by Q1 is equal to T2 by T1.
Very good.
Q find out करें sir.
Yes, very good. We know that this Q1 is a function of temperature T1. This Q2 is function of temperature T2. So Q1 will be proportional to T1. Q2 will be proportional to T2. And I can write Q1 by Q2 is equal to T1 by T2. Right? Now I have this T1, T2. I have this Q2. I just need to find Q1. Yes, somebody was saying something.
Sir,
Yes,
sir, in
please.
heat engine also it is proportional. Q1
Yeah,
is to T1.
everywhere. That is the function of thermal reservoir. That a heat transfer will be proportional to temperature. Is that fine, Pradeep?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so Q1 by Q2 is equal to T1 by T2. So Q1 is equal to, what is T1 by T2? 308 by 261 into Q2 is 2. So Q1 is equal to, tell me the answer of Q1. Somebody hurry up.
$2.36.
2.36. The unit is kilojoules per second. Let me see what I have got. Yes, 2.36. Okay. So now we have got Q1, and what they have asked, the least power required. So we need to find this W, and that we know now, right? How to calculate W? If I look at the refrigerator, this W is input to the system, Q2 is input to the system, and Q1 is going out of the system. So this, if I take summation of all those energies, what relation I will get? Q2 plus W is equal to Q1, right? So for this one, Q2 plus W is equal to Q1. And if I want to find that W from this relation, W is equal to, I need to shift this Q2 to the right. So Q1 minus Q2. And if you put all those values, you will get the W. But Q1 we have got 2.36 minus Q2 is already given 2, and that will become, that is now quite easier one. What is W then? Kilojoules per second. Can anyone tell me? 2.36 minus 2 is
0.36.
0.36 kilojoules per second. Okay, so the least power required will be 0.36 kilojoules per second to take out that 2 kilojoules per second heat leaking into the freezer. Is that fine? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. Now we have got only 6 minutes, so I will dictate one numerical, and that will be homework. You need to solve that one and post solution of that one to the Google Classroom, not to the WhatsApp. You need to post it to the Google Classroom. I will create one question based on this one, and in answer you need to post the picture of your notebook only for this numerical, okay, that we are going to dictate now. Write down the statement. A house requires 2 into 10 raised to 5 kilojoules per hour. A house requires 2 into 10 raised to 5 kilojoules per hour heating in winter. 2 into 10 raised to 5 kilojoules per hour heating in winter, full stop. A heat pump is used. The heat pump is used to absorb heat from atmosphere. We know that heat pump, what heat pump does? If this is heat pump, it will take heat from atmosphere, that is Q2, and send it to a house, that is Q1, and for that one it will take work as a input. Okay, so a heat pump is used to absorb that heat from atmosphere and send that heat to house, and send that heat to house, full stop. The work required to operate the heat pump, work required to operate the heat pump is 3 into 10 raised to 4 kilojoules per hour. 3 into 10 raised to 4 kilojoules per hour, full stop. Determine first one.